So I thought I would share my story of a book that I'm writing that's called Blood, Sweat, and Chocolate, from Christian missionary to Tantra teacher. So quite a fascinating journey to take in one's life, and quite a shift from one extreme to the other, I would say. So it's an interesting story. And so, I grew up Christian, and it was non-denominational Christian, which is kind of the more liberal side of Christianity, and was very involved in the churches that I was a part of, whether it was, evening groups or women's groups or singles groups or taking care of the kids during Sunday school or whatever. And so I would say my strongest part of my spiritual journey started when I was in junior high, and my dad, for Christmas, I believe, gave me 2 journals. One to share what I have to say to God, and one to document what I feel God is saying to me. And I think that practice kind of launched me into a deeper spiritual practice. So I was very devout at a really young age, and been very spiritual all my life. And I'm a Pisces, and we're known for being spiritual. The 12th sign of the zodiac. So, to give you an example, in high school, I remember especially, I wanted God to know that He came first in my life. And so the way I showed that was by getting up at the crack of dawn and doing my devotions, having my spiritual quality time, so to speak, before I did anything else that every day. And that was, to show that my spirituality was a priority in my life. And I'm not really a morning person, but I made myself get up really early so I could start my day off that way. And, that would take the form of prayer or Bible reading or some kind of spiritual book I was reading at the time. And yeah, I was very dedicated. And I have always felt like I've had a connection with spirit, and communication flow between the spirit world and myself. And it's guided my whole life. I would never make a huge decision to move somewhere or go attend a big school without first running it through my spiritual filters to make sure that I was getting the yes, to confirm that that was the right decision. And there are times like when like when I felt the Spirit was guiding me to finish college, certain things like that, where I really wasn't on board, and that wouldn't have really been my choice so much. And I was getting the message. I was in Texas at the time, and I was getting the message to go back to school and finish, and I was like, really? Because I wasn't, really wanting that so much myself at the time, but I was also feeling the glass ceiling of work and feeling the limitations of, gosh, without a degree, some of these careers or businesses won't even look at me. And so, I did it, even though it wasn't really something I would have done out of my own will. And the same thing happened in my master's degree, actually. I wasn't necessarily planning to go get that at the time that I did, but I was getting the message, like, you might want to think about getting your master's degree, because in order to do what I want to do, which is teach at the adult level, and I do, and I have in different ways, but, I did go away to Tennessee and get my master's degree in education because of that prompt. So I definitely would say my spirituality has guided me through my path. Otherwise, I might not have my degree to this day, and it's definitely paid off. It helps to have those things under my belt for credibility and just more opportunities. And then when I had finished my undergrad and I was 20, I decided to be a part of this program called Youth with a Mission. Wham was the acronym for it. And so I went to Sunland, California, and I got to be a part of this amazing international team that were the first ones to break into Russia at that time. So that was in 1991. And they had finally opened up their country and were allowing groups like us to come in and share. And we did performances everywhere. We did dancing and singing, and we took turns public speaking about Christianity, and we did mime because that's like an international language. It was powerful. A friend and I even came up with a clowning act too, and so that was definitely a highlight in my life. It was amazing to witness some of the things that we did over in Russia and how long they had waited for us to come in so that they could learn more about spirituality. And we got to perform like in the town square, in the hospital, in the schools, in the orphanages, in the prisons. So it was pretty amazing experience that we were in Estonia, based with, living with the families there, and then we'd go out from there to St. Petersburg and Moscow and so forth. And I remember one of the things I came away with in that experience was really witnessing how much prayer works. Because sometimes we were feeling led to pray together more than we were led to just go out and perform all the time. Because in prayer, you can kind of speak things into existence, and it's somewhat unleashing the spiritual forces to do what they already want to do, but they need that prayer to kind of give them permission, so to speak, because they won't do anything against your will or without you asking. But if you ask, a lot can happen. And then they have permission to, to do all the great things that we need their help with, in the world and transforming things. And there was two main questions that the Russians would ask us, I noticed over and over, which was, do you think Gorbachev is, a good leader for us? And I would just say, pray about it. Pray for him to be replaced if that's what you think is better. And the other one was, do you think Estonia will ever get its independence? Because we were based there, and it was clear that, the ruins of World War II were still left there. It was kind of in shambles, and it hadn't really been cleaned up. And of course, they were under, the governance of USSR instead of being their own country. So I would just say, pray about it. Pray that you'll get your independence. And sure enough, right after we left, those two things happened. Estonia got their independence, and Gorbachev stepped down, and another leader came in. So it was really awesome to see how we played a part in that, and how, prayer, how powerful it can be, especially when not just one, but a group of people are praying for the same thing. And so it was kind of like making history in a sense, and influencing, the events of history. So that was definitely, a highlight in my life, being a Christian missionary in Russia. And then I went to a Christian college, Westmont College in Santa Barbara. And that's kind of when I had an opening, an awakening to the next step of my spirituality. Because it's funny, back to back, my senior year, I took a class that was about cults, and we got to learn, like all the bad stuff about every religion and some of the things that go on behind the scenes, and how rigged they are sometimes and dysfunctional or whatever. And then the next semester I took kind of the opposite class where it showed the beauty of every religion. And oftentimes I would comment that, you know, some of these religions are more devout than we are as Christians. You know, they're doing more in certain areas than we are. So who are we to judge other religions or say ours is better? And it really opened my eyes to kind of let people express their spirituality in the way that they feel led to, because I don't think that we were meant to all be the same religion. I think there's different ways to express yourself, and spiritually, you know, whether it's prayer or meditation or worship through singing and dancing, or being a missionary or a teacher or a preacher. You know, there's different ways to express your spirituality, and a lot of the religions do have some of the same concepts, and it's kind of arrogant to try to make someone become a part of your religion as though it's better somehow. You know, I think we all have different paths, and we have to be just true to ourselves. And, you know, as long as it's not killing people or something, you know, some religions do get a bit dysfunctional. And that's where it gets kind of edgy. But at any rate, I went to a Christian college, and I kind of had that awakening where I think I became a little bit more of a universalist, is what I call it, for lack of a better word, because I was noticing that some of these other religions were doing better in certain areas than us as Christians. They were more devout in certain ways, and commendable. And I just saw that there was a bigger picture to the whole story, that the Christian story is just, it's manipulated a bit. There were parts of the Bible that were left out or changed, unfortunately, and I know the Celestine prophecy had some impact on me at that time. And, you know, unfortunately, Christianity and Catholicism, I feel like, got twisted in history to some degree, where the governments were using religion to control the people. And so in a sense, it kind of got corrupted, and they would tell the people what they wanted the people to hear so that they would abide by and be what the masses wanted them to be, instead of, you know, it's just a big manipulation kind of a thing that it turned into, unfortunately. And I saw, I guess, that kind of hypocrisy, and just realizing that there's more to the story. There's more to the Christian story. It certainly is dysfunctional, I feel like, in the areas of marriage, gender roles, sexuality. It's leaving out a lot of stuff, and, you know, kind of very old school, not up to date, and not realistic. So this is my journey, I guess, from childhood to through college, and I'm going to talk about grad school and beyond in my next clip.